800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gut Check Project, where we all check our egos at the door with your host, Dr. Kenneth Brown, MD. I'm Eric Rieger. Ken, it is episode number 9. What do you think of that?
This is so exciting. 9 lives in cats. There's 9. It's a great number. It's an awesome number.
Did you ever see Seinfeld? I think it was, no, it was Ferris Bueller 9 times. I always think of that every time I hear the faded number 9.
This is so exciting though, because we're starting to get a little traction. I'm being messaged by people. This is really fun. And I cannot tell you how excited I am about today's show.
Today's show, we actually have a real offer. We've got viewers who have been watching us weekly, and now we have something that we can actually give back to them. And then, no, you're right. I'm pretty fired up. In fact, today's episode is unlike any other. We have an offer for everyone. Here to tell us about that offer and help us explain it is going to be Rachel Scheer, certified sports nutritionist and fitness model, as well as Dr. J. Yepuri, and he is, of course, a board-certified gastroenterologist. And he happens to serve as the CMO of Riduzone, which a lot of our listeners have probably heard us talk about.
Absolutely. So this is not the reason why I'm so excited about this. Yes, we're going to be doing an offer, but more importantly, our 2 guests are absolutely amazing people. So Rachel has this fantastic story. She's super smart. She's a nutritionist, and she's able to stay in incredible shape, and she's going to help our listeners hopefully look a little bit like her someday. So we were just on Mojo, and I had to laugh that Brad encouraged her that she's off to a good start, which was pretty funny because
yeah, and I just hope she can hold it together before she gets on the air.
And like many people that are very passionate about their jobs, she has a hero's journey that she's going to tell us about, and she's going to explain how she ended up doing this, and getting her degree at Baylor and overcoming some obstacles and all of the above, which is awesome. And so that's going to be super exciting to talk to her about that. She's a big advocate of Atrantil, my baby. That's how her and I got to know each other. And she's going to talk about proper way to eat, proper way to exercise. And it might surprise you because a lot of people are probably being way too restrictive, or they're trying to do this and that. And she's going to explain how to look like she does and still eat pretty much what you want.
Sure. And getting to know her story a little bit better, it's really cool because she has her own personal journey that relates to a lot of people. That you may think that people that want to come on and talk about things like that their story doesn't relate to you. Not the case at all.
She just recently spoke at the Millionaire Mastermind. There's over 500 people there that pay a lot of money to be in a mastermind group, and they had her as a speaker discussing this, and she's really open about that because when you look at somebody that has overcome some struggles, you realize, hey, I can do this. And there's people like that out there that have learned how to use nutrition, which I consider the foundation of all health. Because if you have good nutrition, you have a healthy gut. And all health begins and ends in the gut.
Sure. And she also collaborates with lots of other gastroenterologists, including yourself, to help serve the people that you serve. And it's a great unified front. She's a great collaborator in that capacity.
Absolutely. And then somebody that I completely respect. So somebody that we have on that his name is Dr. Yepuri. He is an influencer in the gastroenterology world.
Definitely.
He was the former president of the Texas Society of Gastrointestinal or GI, TSGE, whatever that stands for. But anyways, he was the president of that. He got a political science degree from Penn University. Super smart. I've worked with him for the last 17 years. He's an influencer, always doing the right thing, always looking at things from both a political and a patient-centric view. How do we do the right thing politically and make sure that the patient gets the best of everything? We need more people like him out there talking about laws, making sure that patients get access to healthcare. And he's also the chief medical officer of the product you're talking about, Riduzone, and we're going to get into that, and that's super cool also. If you haven't heard of it, stay tuned because it is so neat. We're going to cover so much ground today. That's why I'm so excited. I respect both our guests so much, and I'm going to learn a ton. Every single guest we have had, I've learned a lot, and that's one of the reasons why we do this show.
And without question, one more thing to add to Jay, I'd like to say that doing anesthesia, I've gotten to work with a lot of different physicians and all different kinds of capacities. But the people that oftentimes stick out are those that you can tell are altruistic and function as real patient advocates. And that's definitely Dr. J. He's been that way since the day that I've known him. And it's no wonder why it's put him into the position that he's in now. The cool thing is that either one of these guests we could definitely have either one of them on specifically to talk about what all of their interests are just by themselves. But they've joined together because they actually want to talk about this offer that's coming up later.
Absolutely. And more than likely, we'll have each one of these guests back on to give them a full hour and a half to say what's ever on their mind. But today we have such a big offer that we believe that two really important people should announce it with us.
Sure, without question. Real quick, paying the bills. Don't forget that if you ever suffer from bloating, go to lovemytummy.com/Spoonie. That's lovemytummy.com/Spoonie. Use the code Spoonie. It's also printed on that landing page whenever you get there, and save some money on the world's only NSF certified for sport product for IBS symptoms and bloating.
And if you're wondering what NSF is, well, Rachel's going to explain that.
Yeah, she might just be a little bit familiar with it, with being in sports nutrition. And of course, to all of the people that...
Let me just clarify one thing really quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have been told I was messaged, said that whenever you talk about the landing page, people did not realize how much money they can save when they put in that code Spoonie. So not only do you go there and get it, but you're going to save a lot of money with Spoonie. So everybody listening, use that code.
Use it.
Because it saves money.
Definitely.
A lot of money.
That's right. And just to follow after that, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Oh, yeah. This last week, received lots of email. Keep them coming. I appreciate all of the comments that we had last week of Chris being on episode number 8. Chris Husong, of course, was the market expert for hemp. But I'm still getting requests for information on how to connect with James Carroll. And, of course, how do I find Dr. Wade McKenna? If you want to know anything about stem cells, go back to that episode. So much so that he was spotted on our episode by someone making a docuseries about stem cells, and now Dr. Wade McKenna is going to be featured in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
Man, one thing I learned from that, and I respect him as a doctor that stood by his guns and realized that he developed this, got a patent on something.
Sure.
And just to reiterate that a better thing came out, and he went, "You're better, I'm going to use you, even though my name's on this thing." That is amazing to me. That just shows pure patient advocacy. So that's a hard word for me to say, by the way.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
It looked easy in my brain, but yeah, I think that it's just blown my mind with at the infancy of where stem cell is. Same thing with all these other topics that we're really trying to tackle here and show, try and bring a little knowledge.
Definitely. So if you want to connect with the show to ask more questions about Dr. Wade McKenna, James Carroll, Joy Beckerman, Chris Husong, anybody that we've had on the show, Sean Bryans, please go to gutcheckproject.com, and then you will find the Connect tab at the top. Shoot us an email at any point in time. And if you like the show, all we ask that you do is subscribe and like it and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. We're gaining some traction. You're going to see today that Rachel has a huge social media following. Go ahead and check out her Instagram page. It's at Rachel Scheer Nutrition. Rachel Scheer Nutrition. That's correct. RachelScheer.com. They all pretty much lead to the same place. You can find, and that's RachelScheer. And of course, like always, we'll include all links about our guests and the offer in the show notes. You can always find us at YouTube channel Gut Check Project, and on iTunes search Gut Check Project. So. Absolutely. Well, now we're going to move into a little bit of personal stuff like we normally do and hit some KBMD corner news. So, Dr. Ken, what's going on? I had kind of an interesting week. I just came back from Newark, New Jersey. Right. Where I was part of filming our national commercial for Atrantil. Nice. We are going to launch a national campaign on TV. That's always fun to go there and see a totally different industry and realize what's happening. And I guess the takeaway, it was good. It went really well. It was really fun. When I was doing my makeup, I had to laugh because the makeup artist had all her material out there. And of course, as a gastroenterologist, the one thing I noticed, I mean, there's just tons of things, was a tube of Preparation H. So I grabbed it and I said, I can help you with this. And she's like, excuse me? And I went, I'm a gastroenterologist. She's like, oh my gosh, no, I use it for eyes. I put it under people's eyes. It takes away the bags. I was like, oh, okay. I'm just saying, if you have Preparation H laying out, I can fix your hemorrhoids.
Sounds like she's fighting pretty hard to explain that one away.
So I did that, and the kids, the usual thing. We've got my daughter Carla in theater is they're learning about Wicked. So now she wants to go to New York, watch Wicked, and we'll probably maybe consider going in August when it's super hot and watch the U.S. Open also. I don't know, but I'm being coerced into going to watch Wicked in New York, and my son just came back from Florida where he played in an ITF, which is kind of next level, 18 and under kind of thing. And
Definitely.
second round, got beat by the 70th ranked player in the world, did it proudly, played well, and the guy that did it pulled him aside and kind of coached him afterwards, which I think is the coolest sign of sportsmanship. Cool. And said, "You're an up and comer. This is awesome. Work on this. Work on this."
He gave him feedback.
He gave him feedback. This is what I did when you did this. So yeah, and so it was worth the trip to Lucas. He lost second round, but he loved it. So, what's going on with your family?
The boys are basically just attacking the hoop. This coming weekend they have a quick tournament. They both played over the weekend. They played Monday, and that seems to be the agenda. They did go and see the latest, and this is how little I know about superheroes. I know that there is a big blockbuster superhero movie that just came out, and
don't you spoiler alert this for me.
I wouldn't do it because I don't even know the name of it. But I know that they both went to go see.
Know that that's been the running joke, is that don't do any spoiler alerts. Everybody, it's all over Reddit where I don't know either.
You don't have to tune out. I don't have any idea what happens.
You're not going to do this to our listeners. You're not going to explain. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. And my wife is doing great. She's really busy this weekend with a bunch of local activities. She's heavily involved with that. And then I've got to run with you actually on a quick business trip out to Arizona. So that pretty much rounds out the week for me. Yeah.
We one quick shout out to a friend of mine and a colleague, Dr. Stuart Ackerman. He's a partner of mine. You can check him out. He's a specialist in pancreas issues, biliary, EUS, ERCP, that kind of thing. But he sent me a link to somebody that we both really like. It's Little Dicky.
The rapper.
The rapper. Lil Dicky just came out with an Earth video, and what's really cool is he sent me a follow-up video on YouTube where he talks about how the way that we are producing our food is affecting the environment. What I loved about it is he was talking about the cows producing methane.
Oh.
And, of course, that's right in our wheelhouse with Atrantil.
Yeah.
So, methane, if you have bacteria growing where it shouldn't be, you're going to get very bloated. And when that happens, it can affect you. Now, we always talk about our demographic and our avatar. When we talk about marketing, you really need to dial it in. And I was messaged by Hafbort Bjornsson. He plays the Mountain from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And Magnus von Magnuson.
The guy from the heavy lifter from ESPN?
ESPN Strongman, yeah. And they said, we get bloated also, and you're ignoring our demographic.
What?
Yeah. And so I spoke with, our team at Atrantil, and I said, we're completely ignoring a group of people here. And so we've got a new SKU for the Mountain of Game of Thrones and Magnus von Magnuson. If you'll just take over the mic for a second, I'm going to go ahead and show you this.
I'm just going to narrate what Dr. Ken's doing. Okay, so he's stepping away. And I don't know if I do this in golf voice or not. If you're listening through iTunes, you can't see the visual. Oh, he's opening up the back. Oh, he's straining down like he's got an Atlas stone. Oh, my goodness. There is a gigantic green box marked just like the familiar Atrantil box. Wow. Yeah,
so this is our newest SKU. It is Atrantil for strongmen. It is 40 kilograms.
Look like you might have thrown your back out.
Well, I kind of tweaked it. I'm faking it right now. I'll go ahead and take some CBD later and make sure it calms down that inflammatory response. So, no, this is not for strongmen, and no, they did not actually message me. This is actually a gift for episode number 9 from our CEO, Chuck Scott.
Oh,
super cool.
Nice.
It's an exact replica of the little one, and we're going to leave this guy right here at all times. Because Atrantil, we can fix people. We help with their bloating, even strongmen, but they don't have to take that big box.
Oh, it looks nice.
Isn't that cool? I thought that was such a cool gesture, and it's super neat. And it's something that we need to get the word out. That's why we're going to do a national commercial.
No, yeah, I like that. And Chuck Scott is the CEO of KBS Research, the parent company of Altron Teal. So nice work there, Chuck. I do notice, though, again, here at the bottom, it says 90 capsules, just like the regular size.
Yes.
So, and it also says 275 milligrams, just like the regular size. There must be a lot of empty space in these capsules.
Well, knowing that we were initially making this for strongmen, you know, each capsule is about 2 inches long and it's filled with lead to really weigh it down.
Oh, okay. So no one can swallow it.
Yes.
So if you order the large volume here of Altron Teal, it's going to cost you a lot in shipping, and you will not be able to go through a metal detector
and get lead poisoning. So don't do that.
Just order the smaller one, but we have the bigger one here for you to look at. Okay, nice.
So I had to laugh. Chuck Scott just messaged us and said, "Oh my gosh, you had me going. I thought you were serious."
Oh well, yeah. Well, good.
Funny.
Nice work, Chuck. I like that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that is so cool. And, you know, I mean, that's what we're trying to do as a company. We're trying to sponsor Spoonie Radio.
Sure.
So, you know, tune in. You brought up Morse Code last week and Chow Down, and there's a lot
Trace
of
Chow Down, yeah.
Trace Chow Down. There's a lot of really, really cool shows. And of course, we got our man Patrick, Chef Patrick, who's got his show. So
Definitely.
awesome.
Well, why don't you hit up the corner and let us know what's on the research page for this week.
So basically what we always like to try and do is talk about a little bit of science here. And I'm going to try and get through this really quick, and it's going to seem like a lot, but I will come full circle and explain it at the very end.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm doing this is because our guest, Dr. Yepuri, happens to be an expert on one of these things.
Right on. Okay. Well, let's hear about it.
All right. So I'm a big fan of a PhD named Michelle Ross.
Oh, me too.
She wrote a book called Vitamin Weed, and I think it's one of the more comprehensive molecular books that I have read. And she covers a lot of ground in here. One of the things that we always talk about is the endocannabinoid system. We all have it. It's just as important as the gastrointestinal system. Although it's everywhere in the body, if you think of it, what it really does is it links the neurologic system and the immune system. So it really ties those two together. So it's extremely important for a lot of different things. The purpose of this is to actually be like a traffic cop and control the amount of nerve activity going back and forth. So it just kind of makes sure that everything works well, which is why it works so well in anxiety and autoimmune diseases. So the endocannabinoid system helps deal with physical and emotional stress. Okay. So now what is a cannabinoid? Basically, you can take a cannabinoid, phytocannabinoid, you can synthetically make one, a drug, not a fan of those.
Sure.
And your body makes them. What we're going to talk about are the cannabinoids that your body makes.
Okay.
So it gets into a little bit of deep stuff, but the most prominent thing that I want you to keep in mind is that there's two endocannabinoids that everyone always talks about.
All right.
Anandamide and 2-AG.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about those because those are the ones that everybody talks about, and they deserve their own hour each. What I want to talk about are the atypical ones. And then this actually explains why a full spectrum phytocannabinoid, like the KBMD brand right here, powered by elixinol, actually works in a lot of different ways. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that the full spectrum will always outperform a synthetic cannabinoid or a drug cannabinoid.
Well, it's naturally powered, right? I mean, that's basically the way that nature intended it to happen. So, of course, it's usually better.
Yeah. So even if you know quite a bit about CBD, so if we've got our people out there, they're like, oh, I know all about it. Yeah, I know about 2-AG and anandamide. Listen up, because this is a little bit different. So I'm going to talk about 4 different endocannabinoids. One of them is called PEA. Yeah, P, like a pea, like a green pea.
Okay.
It actually stands for N-palmitoylphenolamine. Originally discovered in egg yolk. Kicker to this is that it has been shown to have a potent anti-inflammatory activity and has a role in preventing neuropathic and chronic pain.
Wow.
One of the problems is that alcohol decreases PEA.
Okay.
So keep that in mind, because a lot of people a lot of people develop alcoholism or opioid abuse because of chronic pain. A full spectrum phytocannabinoid has PEA in it. So it acts in synergy with the other main one, 2-AG and anandamide, for an entourage effect, meaning it helps those out. And it inhibits an enzyme that breaks it down called FAAH. So the enzyme FAAH breaks down your endogenous endocannabinoids.
Okay.
So that's one.
Right.
So this one works on inflammation and chronic pain. Then there's this super cool one called OEA, N-oleolethanolamine, OEA.
Huh.
Does that sound familiar?
It does sound familiar. It's in this bottle that I'm holding in my hand for Riduzone. It's exactly what they have in here as their key ingredient.
So Riduzone, one of the sponsors of Mojo and Spoonie. Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Yepuri, coming on the show today. Well, I'm going to let him talk about why they put a concentrate of OEA in a bottle. What I'm going to tell you is that your body makes some OEA, and it's been shown to do some pretty cool things. This is produced naturally in the small intestine from fatty acids, and the major target is another cannabinoid receptor called PPAR alpha.
Easy for you to say.
I know. That's a proliferator activated receptor alpha. Now, that is something that I'm going to be doing quite a bit of writing on because PPAR alphas and PPAR alpha, PPAR gamma are associated with inflammatory processes in ulcerative colitis, ulcerative proctitis.
Wow.
So we're going to be publishing some really geeky, cool stuff. But I just wanted to throw this out there really quick that OEA has been shown to be good for brain health. And believe it or not, it's actually been shown to increase memories in rodents. And it does some pretty cool things for weight loss, but I'm going to leave that to Dr. Yepuri later because that's where most of the science has been done. But they have shown that this molecule actually helps with brain and memory.
It is so wild. I mean, basically, we're talking about natural compounds available to us to make us feel better and stopping inflammation. Isn't it wild that how many times over the last decade now have you encountered this crossroads of stop inflammation, help your neurologic system, help the way that you think, help the way that you sleep? I mean, there's a lot of connectivity there. I mean, it just keeps going back to all health begins and ends in the gut.
Exactly. And he's going to go ahead and explain, Dr. Yepuri is going to go ahead and explain about how Riduzone gets converted in the gut into this potent molecule that works. And he's going to talk about a different science, but I did not know that it actually helped with memory in the brain as well. So it decreases the inflammatory response there. Awesome. Number 3, something a lot of people have heard of, DHEA.
Right.
N-docosahexaenol ethanolnibunine. These are hard. That's how come they make acronyms for all these. Nobody actually says the real word.
It's really hard to Google.
Now, this is made from the fatty acid DHA, which is fish oil, omega-3. DHA has been shown to reduce inflammatory gene expression. There's that word again, inflammatory. Your body will naturally produce the hormone DHA in the adrenal gland. In turn, DHEA helps produce other hormones like testosterone and estrogen.
Okay.
Rachel's going to get into that. Some adrenal fatigue, some adrenal lagging. This is the kind of thing that nutritionists work on. And then the last one here is NADA, N-A-D-A, norepinephrine dopamine. It's not really clear how it's made, but it is made in the brain in the hippocampus region. It relieves pain, increases sleepiness, and decreases body temperature while relaxing your muscles. Okay, so all those acronyms, the only reason why I brought this up is because when I give CBD, a full phytocannabinoid to my patients, I get all different kinds of responses. Now it makes sense. You could be deficient in one of these. So this short review is necessary because patients may tell me that they sleep better or their nerve pain is better. Now I can say, oh, if you have insomnia, maybe your NADA levels are low or that needs to be increased. Or if your memory is bad, maybe you need more OEA. Oh, your sex drive is down? How about increasing that DHEA? In other words, this is why a full spectrum, high quality CBD can be so effective. It's filled with all these other benefits that nobody ever talks about.
Nobody ever talks about it, but you know what? A lot of different people have made these connections. If you want to be healthier, if you want to sleep better, if you want to feel, they all go together. You just simply have to eat better so that you can sleep better. You have to sleep better so you can think better. You have to sleep better so you can repair your body. It's amazing. We've only got, that was every half hour is so daggum fast.
Oh, I know. But everyone tune in now because we're going to have our 2 guests on. And let me tell you what, you're going to watch this live. Trust me on this. It is going to be a cool show. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. And it's the offer that's the most important thing.
Yes. Rachel Scheer is coming on with Dr. Yepuri to basically deliver some great news that is happening here. Hasn't been announced anywhere else. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Subscribe and share Gut Check Project, iTunes and YouTube. See you in a bit.
Got an old car? You can donate it, whether it's running or not, to the United Breast Cancer Foundation and save a life. They'll even come and pick it up for free. The United Breast Cancer Foundation has saved hundreds of women's lives through their free or low-cost breast screen exams. But now they need your help. The United Breast Cancer Foundation wants to save more lives through early detection by offering women free or low-cost breast screening exams. And donating your old car, SUV, or truck, whether it's running or not, helps pay for them. Plus, you get a charitable tax deduction. Help the United Breast Cancer Foundation save lives by donating your old car, SUV, or truck. Call now for free pickup. 800-245-0823. 800-245-0823. 800-245-0823. Call right now. That number again is 800-245-0823.
It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
Funny name, but I've done it with Riduzone. riduzone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism,
Yes,
so you're
it does.
burning more.
Yeah, it does.
Try it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. Riduzone.com. RIDUZone.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month, based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
All right, so here we are back. We're setting up. We have Rachel Scheer. Rachel, give us a little wave over here.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Dr. J. Yepuri is on his way in, and we got Chef Patrick over there messing with our sign. So that should be resolved here shortly. And Dr. J. Yepuri is entering the room.
Welcome, Dr. J.
Running a little behind as usual.
Not a problem. So, while we're getting started here on this, the second half hour. Oh, you can just put it on. Well, we're getting started in the second half hour. We want to welcome.
Do you have your mic?
Oh, I've got it. I'm holding it, so I'm going to get this one fixed.
Oh.
So we're on episode 9, not episode 90. So we're going to fix a couple things. I'm going to let the real host, Dr. Kenneth Brown, handle the setup, and I'll be back in a moment.
So for the record, this is the first time we've attempted 2 guests at the same time, and we are working the kinks out. We got one of the mics that isn't working, but we have the 2 most important people in the room here. Rachel, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are?
My name is Rachel Scheer, and I am a functional medicine nutritionist here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am also a fitness model that I do bodybuilding and bikini competitions.
And is that how you met Dr. J. Yepuri on the fitness model circuit?
Oh yes, of course. He does a lot of bikini competitions.
I try to keep that on a little bit, second page of the CV, if you will. So, no one wants to see that. Just put that out there.
Yep.
So.
Put the mic a little closer.
Sure,
There we go. Yeah. Dr. J. Yepuri, quick bio here. What's going on with you? Where do you come from? Who are you for our listeners?
Who am I? Well, so native of Louisville, Kentucky. Missing home this weekend because of the Kentucky Derby. Try to make it up as often as I can, but been down here in Texas 18 years and haven't found a reason to leave yet. So been fortunate to be your partner in our larger group practice for many years now, and enjoying working with you in a lot of different ways that we have so far. So
absolutely. So Rachel, we went on Mojo earlier for a little bit. We covered a lot of ground in just a very short period of time. But I think one of the coolest things is that you just recently gave a lecture at the Millionaire Mastermind Club, correct?
Yeah, the $1 Million Mastermind.
$1 Million Mastermind. Tell us a little bit about that and why were you chosen to do this? Because that's a huge honor.
Yeah, so the $1 Million Mastermind was put on by Ryan Stewman. He's also known as the Hardcore Closer. And basically, he brought on a ton of different influential people all over the United States who are entrepreneurs who've created their own business. And the majority of it was going to be talking about sales and business strategies. But they brought me on as a nutritionist, which was a very different type of platform, and how I built my business and my brand and just being able to share my story. Nutrition is very important, as we know, for overall health, but not a lot of people think about it from a business standpoint. So I kind of gave that side of my viewpoint as why nutrition and fitness is so essential with building a business and from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Right. Why? How did you become so passionate about this and getting the word out about nutrition?
Well, nutrition is something that has always been important to me. My dad suffered from mental illness. I actually grew up in a very unhealthy environment. My mom was very absent for most of my childhood. I ate very unhealthy growing up, and that really prompted me to want to get into nutrition. So I went to Baylor and I studied nutrition and dietetics. I picked up weightlifting along those lines. So I always had a very athletic background, but I'll say that growing up, with nutrition, I wasn't always doing it the right way necessarily. And along with that led to a lot of different health issues, specifically related to my gut later on. So I really had to make a lot of different changes with my diet to really figure out what worked best for me.
So let me back up and ask you real quick. Do you think that you said you were not making healthy choices because you were trying to become stage ready? You were starting to get into the whole fitness modeling? Tell me about that.
I think there's a big misconception between diet food and health food necessarily. So we live in a world where everything's focused on weight loss and building muscle and all of that, which you may look healthy from the outside. Like you can lose weight eating 2 pieces of pizza and a donut per day, but does that mean you're going to be healthy? No. And I think that's a lot of the mindset that we have. We think that, a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate, a fat is a fat, when really that is not the case. I mean, the nutrition of, so let's say a sweet potato, which is a carbohydrate, is not going to be the same nutritional value as, let's say, a donut. So that's a big misconception that I think I see oftentimes with what is the American standard diet.
So I think one of the cool things is that you've become very passionate about it. I think as a nutritionist, turning it into a business is awesome. As gastroenterologist, Jay, I did not get that much training in nutrition during my fellowship. Did you?
Well, it's a great point you bring up, Ken, and listening to Rachel talk kind of got those wheels turning in my brain. And to echo the point you just made, that's important. We got no training in that regard. I mean, the traditional pathway is all based on pharmacology and medications and treatments and interventions and procedures that we do. But these kind of more basic fundamental building blocks, I mean, it's cliche, but you are what you eat. And I know Rachel's probably cringing when she hears me say that, but I think it really resonates and rings true in the current era. It's not something that patients always talk to us about it, but it's something we have to defer to someone like Rachel, who's an expert, because we don't have that training.
Unfortunately, and that's something that you and I have talked about, where when I sit there and I actually tell my patients point blank, some of the best knowledgeable people are fitness people, bodybuilders, and extreme sports like triathletes, because they have to take it to the level where they are so dialed in. And I learn a lot. I learn a lot from my other colleagues who have done that. There are people out there. I've got a chiropractor friend of mine that we brought up before. His name is Dr. Ron Tribendis in the Plano area. He's an elite triathlete. He's the first guy that's talking about nutrition and whole foods and things like that. And so what you did is you jumped into this. You started getting into the body-changing type of mind, came from a background of, it sounds like a very difficult childhood.
Yes.
And you wanted to take control of your life.
Yes.
And then you did something and you paid a bit of a price that we deal with patients all the time that come in. So tell me what happened after that.
So I was putting my body through a lot of stress. I would say dietary stress, physical stress with training very hard, and then a lot of just mental stress as well too. And stress is one of the main initiators of illness. And over the course of, training really hard and really trying to diet down, I developed severe gastrointestinal issues in the process, where basically I remember I couldn't eat anything anymore without being in pain. I would be severely distended. I had a lot of chronic bloating, brain fog. I mean, I was miserable, even though from the outside that I may have looked healthy, I was definitely not healthy at all. So that really prompted my change with nutrition and going more into that functional medicine side of nutrition.
I want to get into that in a second.
Yeah.
What is the most common patient that you see in your office, Jay?
I mean, Ken, as you know, we see the full variety of digestive and liver issues, but I would say it is not a day that goes by that a patient doesn't come in with some of the issues that Rachel has described, that we don't have a blood test for necessarily,
Right.
that we don't have an X-ray to do, that we don't have a procedure that we can do to assess. But it's all part of being thoughtful, careful, listening, taking a good history, as we call it. And part of that now, as Rachel's brought to light, is understanding what our patients are eating and what they're putting in their bodies that can help contribute to those symptoms. This is a new, developing, burgeoning area of inquiry, research, and clinical endeavor, and it's exciting. I mean, to see what's coming out of this.
I think it's kind of it's funny because even somebody that, like myself, who considers myself more of a functional gastroenterologist, I do podcasts, I'll go on people's shows, and I'm unfortunately, I want to try everything to see if there's something that's there so that I can offer it to my patients. So I will try everything first and then do it. And we have a mutual friend, Kevin Wilson, who's actually my primary care doctor. And I had to laugh because I got blood work done and he called me up and he's like, dude, what is going on? I'm like, everything. I'm doing everything. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, this supplement, I'm trying to figure it out. Well, I overshot it and my blood work got really screwed up. Liver test went up, my cholesterol got all messed up. I went, okay, can't do everything all at once. And what I did, the real big mistake that I did is I played partial keto. I did dirty keto, where I was like keto when I wanted and sort of cheated when I wanted. And that's the exact worst thing that you could do. So even when you're living it, you don't realize that you're doing some of these things. So like you're living it, you're eating bad. So how did you end up correcting all of that?
Well, I went from a lot of different doctors to doctors, and what blew my mind is, like, no one ever talked about nutrition. They never went back to that, what I was putting into my body. I mean, I did endoscopy, colonoscopy, CT scan, MRI, I did everything, and I always just got slapped with the label of IBS, just irritable bowel syndrome, which to me, that's not a diagnosis at all. It's just an accumulation of symptoms.
Did anybody offer you an antidepressant throughout this process?
Oh yeah, antidepressant. I was offered, laxatives. I was offered many different things. I mean, I was even diagnosed with pancreatitis at one point. So I had a ton of misdiagnoses. And I always was just given medication, and no one really went back down to what is going to be that root cause. What is causing this in the first place? I went to see you, and I think you were one of the first doctors who actually saw something that a lot of doctors didn't see, where I had a little bit of hypermobility going on there too. And that was one of my issues. And then I ended up going to the Mayo Clinic, who found that I actually had a genetic defect for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome as well too. So that could have been exacerbated by heavy weightlifting. But again, it still came back to diet. And once I really looked at my diet, and I had to eliminate a lot of different things that are just in the standard American diet, that was when I really started to make progress and see results and to really feel better overall.
I think that, Jay, you and I have had, discussions about this. You're a thought leader in the industry. I mean, you're recognized on a national stage, and both of us wish we weren't so busy. I mean, we're really too busy, and there's something going on here where people are getting sicker.
It really is an epidemic. I mean, I think, we see these folks every day, and again, we continue to struggle with a lack of, I guess we're all creatures of habit. We want to be able to offer the test. We want to be able to offer the treatment. We want to be able to offer a cure. These are complex issues, and they're very individualized. And I think the one thing that both of us have realized over time is one approach to one patient is going to be different from another patient. And it's not boilerplate, and it's not, page 32 of the textbook. It's going to be a very individual approach, patient by patient. But you're right. I mean, these patients are filling our offices. We're happy to help them, but we need more resources, and we need things that we can go back to be able to offer our patients. So, yeah,
and I think that every time that I get a patient where I struggle and we figure something out, I become better. I learn, and I know I've met all of your partners. I've got my partners and just about everybody I know in our group, Digestive Health Associates of Texas, DHAT. This is a very conscientious group. This is a smart group. Like, I think we've collected some of the best gastroenterologists in the country in one area, and everybody wants people to get better. So unfortunately, when a patient comes in and you do a colon and EGD, when you start thinking outside the box, when you start thinking about the functional aspect of it. So when you said you're a functional nutritionist, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so functional medicine basically means looking at that root cause. So, for example, someone goes into the doctor and let's say they have diabetes, and we throw them on insulin and then we send them on their way. Well, that's not really addressing the root cause. That's just addressing what? It's addressing the insulin resistance, which is a part of it, but the root cause would be their diet, their lifestyle, their lack of exercise. So that's what I'm really trying to do with my nutrition practice. I'm looking at that root cause. Why do we have this problem in the first place, and what can we do to restore function? And a lot of it ultimately comes back to lifestyle, our diet, lack of exercise. That is the main initiators of chronic disease in today's world.
I think when I talk to people, one of the things that I discuss as gastroenterologist, I believe that there's 3 pillars of health. One of them is gut health. Absolutely. All health begins and ends in the gut. 2, sleep. We are a chronically fatigued society. And 3, brain health. And, you know, I discussed on that article in the beginning there about these different phytocannabinoids that help with brain health. I mean, when you address a patient that has something like this, I mean, what is your methodology to trying to figure out how you're going to help this person?
Yeah, I mean, I think the approach you outlined, these 3 pillars, is key. I think this concept of sleep hygiene is something that's been under-recognized and underappreciated for a long period of time. And these are not mutually exclusive pillars, right? I mean, they feed into one another. The lack of sleep increases cortisol levels. You eat, as a result, you feed the beast when those cortisol levels are up. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I think those 3 really do feed back on one another, and they're not mutually exclusive in any way. But I agree. I mean, I think, again, it goes back to this individual approach to the patient and trying to understand exactly what that root cause is, as Rachel so eloquently put, to help that patient. Yeah.
I think it's so cool that you chose this functional medicine route. The other thing I think is really cool is that you chose a very hard field to maintain. As somebody who's always worked out, and I'm pushing 50 now, and I got to try and work out harder to do it and all this other stuff. Tell me about the lifestyle of somebody that actually gets ready to go on stage.
Well, it's definitely a completely different mindset. I could say like the diet is the least of my problems for me, and the workouts, that is just kind of engraved in my day-to-day routine now. I love working out. I love the nutrition, and I love, fueling my body appropriately. But the whole mindset of having to get up on stage and preparation and the timing of food intake, it definitely takes it to a whole another level. For a general person, if we can just focus on whole foods and healthy foods and eliminating processed and artificial foods, that's going to really make a huge deal on their health. But for someone who's, let's say, an Olympic athlete or someone who's like a bodybuilder or trying to get to a certain level, things have to be a little bit more dialed in when it comes to their carbohydrate, their fat, their protein intake, and that definitely takes a lot more concentration and a lot more work to really figure that out.
I think it's fascinating because I just got in the mail in the book Ben Greenfield's second revision of his Beyond Training. Are you familiar with who Ben Greenfield is?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So Ben, I did his podcast. Ben is a former bodybuilder, then triathlete, and then now he's just a big proponent of his brand. He's got a brand called Kion, Kion. Super cool guy. But in his book, his intro, the first chapter, is the description of a 50-year-old guy who's tried to maintain his to be a triathlete. And in the process became skinny fat, increased his stress, started having injuries and all this other stuff. And it just shows that in this desire to maintain health, sometimes we miss the big picture.
Hey, Ken, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Eric. I'm all the way down here in the parking garage.
I was feeling really lonely.
I had to run out. It really wasn't a problem. I just had to go outside so I could help them park some cars.
Rachel kept wondering why I kept trying to hug you. I was like, where's Eric?
I know. It's a mystery. Well, just to add about talking about Ben is actually going to come up to demonstrate to his audience. I actually saw Ben and his helper, Angelo Keeley. He's going to come to North Texas so that we can do a colonoscopy on someone who has gone through the quote-unquote skinny fat. And that being basically him working in nutrition, just like Rachel does, and then of course Dr. Yepuri working in gastroenterology. I think that something that's really cool about the two people sitting across the table from you is that these are collaborators, and they collaborate and they want to do something for their audiences, much like what Ben wants to do. So why don't we kind of talk a little bit about what it is that we want to do for the people, and then we can really kind of get into that for the next whole hour.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we're talking about here, we've got a brilliant gastroenterologist and a brilliant nutritionist. Dr. Yepuri spends a lot of his free time advocating for patients on a political level. He has a political science degree from Penn University. Why'd you choose that, by the way?
Political science?
Yeah.
Well, in a previous life, I thought I was going to be a lawyer and even become a lobbyist. Spent some time working on Capitol Hill between and after college, and I realized over time that wasn't for me. But what I liked about poli-sci was it's a field that makes you have to take a lot of information, understand it, digest it, no pun intended, and then be able to make arguments from it. And that's very much like medicine. You got to learn a lot, be able to process it, and be able to assimilate it, and then bring it back out in order to take care of your patients the right way.
I mean, from my standpoint, admittedly, when you start medicine, you work really hard to get there, and then you become very selfish because you're trying to start your practice, you're trying to feed your family. It becomes, this is my gig. So I've always watched you from the very beginning, always be involved on the political stage, always try and spread the message, always trying to. You've been running the ACG practice management thing that I've been part of a couple times, the practice management group. So what we need is people with a voice that have a stage that can do something like this. And then Rachel, you've got the functional nutrition background. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons our big offer is that we, as a group, Digestive Health Associates, realized that our community in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex could use a little assistance, could use some knowledge, could possibly use some vetted help just in case you're not eating perfect. You're not able to go to Whole Foods and get the wild salmon to get your omega-3s to protect your brain, to all these other things. And that's what we're going to get into in the next half hour. I don't want to spoil that too much because I think it's a really cool thing. Eric, you want to comment on that?
No, I do think it's a really cool thing. There's a lot of challenges that people endure whenever they are going to select supplements and just doing anesthesia, both with Dr. Yepuri and with Dr. Brown. I've personally seen people come through and they'll have a litany of things. And then as both of y'all have seen those people leave the clinic, whenever y'all have done the examination, y'all say half that stuff they have just isn't going to work for them. Or I don't know that I can trust the brands that they're spending all of this money on. So when I saw the two of y'all and the rest of the DHAT group begin to work together to say, we're going to tackle this issue where we can actually leave the walls of the clinic, use some help from a nutritionist just like Rachel, and begin to find the correct type of supplements that would benefit people and they'll actually save money, it takes the guesswork out of trying to be a good patient and trying to find health. So I think it's really pretty awesome. I
think one of the cool things is that you're able to follow your patient home, and we can give some information. If somebody follows you on Instagram, which, by the way, how did you get 260,000 Instagram followers? I'm pretty happy. What are we up to, Eric? 8 or something like that?
Yeah, we just got number 9 about a minute ago.
Woo!
Well, when I started it, I had no idea that it would actually grow into be something that big. I started it when I was at Baylor and I was studying nutrition and dietetics, and I just started posting tips and tricks and recipes and things that I found to be motivational for myself and a way to hold myself accountable. And I really wanted always to help people. That's always been my passion from the beginning. So over time, it just honestly organically grew. And for me, success has nothing to do about the amount of followers I have or about how much money or status, but how much value I can bring to others and how many lives that I can touch and change. So that's what's really been important for me, and kind of having that as my foundation, I think, has allowed me to really grow my following and really create that trust also with my audience.
I think very much like taking an oath that we're going to treat people well. Social media has gotten to the point where now you're held to a certain obligation here. You also have a responsibility to do things correctly.
Yeah, people look up to you, and I think there's a lot of misinformation even on social media. For example, there was a coach here recently in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who was giving out different diet plans and posing herself as a coach and scamming people out of money. So it's also up to the consumer to do their research when they're looking for coaches online and looking to people for advice. Yeah, social media has a huge influence, and people do look up to a lot of us.
I think, Eric, you and I were talking about the Netflix special Fire, where I believe that they are trying to prosecute some of the influencers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They're using their influence for not good, and I think that DHAT obviously is taking the complete opposite approach, as they want to guide people that are already turning to them for advice, and these are returning patients, so obviously you want them to be satisfied.
So, I mean, I think that your online reputation speaks for itself. You have an incredible social media presence on online reputation. Patients are saying, go see Dr. Yepuri. It's the same thing. You're getting, as physicians, you are being spoken about, and patients trust you, and they're going to tell their mother, sister, friend, husband, wife to go see you, and you have an obligation to do that also, to, sometimes you get tough cases.
Well, and it's this, it's the community, right? So, as you and Rachel both touched on, it's this idea that we're being held accountable. And there's a lot of ways in which we're held accountable. But I think as we started to realize, you were a pioneer in this, Ken, but this idea that our patients are starting to look online and to understand and to vet the doctors that they're seeing, the professionals that they're seeing, the counselors that they're seeing. This was not well understood or well fleshed out, 6-7 years ago, but clearly over the last 5 years, as it's gained momentum, we realize this is how our patients are finding us now, and it's the 21st century word of mouth, if you will, and I think unfortunately there's still a lot of fraud out there, but what hopefully social media, online reputation, patients being proactive and reviewing doctors and other providers is the idea that it'll help people find the right provider for them that's going to help get them where they need to get to.
Totally. And I think that you probably, if you're going to put yourself out there. So what I do admire about you, Rachel, is that number one, you get up on stage with very little clothes, which I would not be able to do. I would have to, if I did some sort of stage competition, it would be like jumpsuit things or,
This is why I got out of the bikini competitions, Ken. So, I mean, again, it's better for everybody. So.
Well, you know what? I mean, I was following you for a long time on Instagram and your bikini competitions. I ended up being the last follower. I hung on there as long as I could.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
I'm looking right now. Where is it?
There were some complications. They asked that it was taken down. So,
I think that one of the requirements of bikini modeling is manscaping, and
And we'll leave it at that.
I have nothing to add to that.
No, but I think that so one of the things that Jay and I have to deal with, which sometimes is a very good thing, is the negative review. And sometimes it's valid, sometimes it's not, but very often it'll tell me that if they warned me of something, tried to call, couldn't get through, it's things that we're always working on in a business aspect. That's one person, there was probably 20 people, and we really do acknowledge that. And, the person that helps me out with that, my friend Keith Kaiser, who looks at these and says, okay, you're seeing a trend here. We need to sit down with your office manager and possibly talk that maybe XYZ is broken. So I use these reviews as a way to grow as well, not just, say, okay, yeah, this is kind of going well. Do you ever get any negative things on your Instagram with 259,000 people?
Oh, of course. When you put yourself out there to over 250,000 people, you're going to get people who give you negative reviews and always have something to say. But I think it's also just taking it as a grain of salt. And of course, I like to listen if there's any type of feedback that I can take and improve myself with. But also just kind of staying out of that negativity and just focusing on the people who I can actually benefit. I mean, that's going to be what's most important to me.
It's easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
Okay, so one of the things, I may be a weird, people probably think I'm Amish here, but my kids don't have phones. And I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. And the reason is because I discovered a YouTube video early on which discussed how the equivalent of getting likes is a little dopamine release. Very similar to other things that you can become addicted to. And ultimately, when you are depleted in dopamine, or basically when you release dopamine, your serotonin goes down. So your happiness is serotonin, your pleasure is dopamine, and the phones really can do that to you because it consumes you. And so I let my children decide. And right now they have chosen to say, you know what, we're just going to kind of avoid that right now, which I'm kind of happy about. I don't know how much longer I can do that.
Hey, well, Ken, I hate to cut you off, but we got about 1 minute left before we have to take our 4-minute break. And I do want to let everyone know that Rachel Scheer and Dr. Jay Yepuri will be joining us for the next hour. But before anybody has to, if they have to check out and they want to learn more, Ken, go ahead and hold that box up just so people can kind of get a preview of what we're going to be talking about in the next hour. That is the DHAT box. And if you want information without any cost to you to be sent to you as soon as it's available, go to dhatbox.com. That's DHATBOX.com. And then you will be some of the first in the country to be given the opportunity to check it out. Anything more to add with these last
just
20
super
seconds?
Quick. So we just got to know you guys over this first half hour. Now we're going to get into some super fun stuff like Riduzone. Love this product. Jay's going to get into that, about the science of that. We're going to talk about the box and about different supplements that Rachel likes to use to look this great and stay in shape. So come back for the next half hour. We're going to get into the science part of it. This is going to be fun.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoonie.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. True to his word, Attorney General Barr, a no-show this morning before the House Judiciary Committee. Wanted to ask more questions about the Mueller report.
Barr skipping the hearing in a dispute with Democrats over plans to allow committee lawyers to take part of the questioning. Georgia Republican Doug Collins.
The reason Bill Barr is not here today is because the Democrats decided they didn't want him here today.
We didn't choose not to have Mr. Barr come. He chose.
Chairman Jerry Nadler.
We cannot permit him or anybody in the administration to dictate the manner in which we function.
Nadler adjourning the hearing, vowing the committee will get the answers it needs to conduct oversight.
Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines, Chairman Nadler threatening to hold Barr in contempt of Congress. Yesterday, the Attorney General spent 6 hours before the Senate Judiciary Committee. One senator raising some serious questions about the origins of the Russia collusion investigation.
Senator Lindsey Graham says one thing's for sure about the FBI probe into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server.
We know that the person in charge of investigating hated Trump's guts.
Graham says he'd like to know if that hatred led to Hillary Clinton being exonerated despite the evidence.
And a counterintelligence investigation of the Trump campaign was warranted.
The agent heading that investigation vowing in text messages to stop Trump from being elected. Bob Agnew reporting.
Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, the latest Democrat to announce he's running for president, says he had planned to announce sooner but paused after being diagnosed with prostate cancer.
I was cleared with a clean bill of health. That gave me a chance to think about whether I really wanted to run or not.
And Bennett tells CBS this morning he decided he does want to run. He's seeking the party's presidential nomination for 2020. Wall Street, the Dow up 15 points, the S&P better by 5, and the NASDAQ Composite Index 26 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines. 800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. Eric, we've been seeing Mojo guys over there and over here at Spoonie talk about Atrantil for bloating. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
You're exactly right. The polyphenols are those molecules that we find in the Mediterranean diet. It makes vegetables and fruits very colorful. What are some of the things that these polyphenols polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can actually stop inflammation. They can help you have more energy. They can help you with anti-aging. And polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Tell me how everybody should be taking Atrantil.
If you want to dose Atrantil, it's 2 capsules 3 times a day, basically with your meals. But if you aren't bloated and you just want that polyphenol intake every day, 2 to 3 capsules a day will work for you.
Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoonie.
Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us. Our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Oh my goodness. We are back. I was having separation anxiety.
Woo! I'm back. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I got stuck out there. It's raining. You can't see it. There's no windows in here.
Ken seemed kind of off.
It's raining.
Without air.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, this is
in the vicinity, and there was a glass wall. It was super awkward.
It was throwing me off. I kept having to look over there.
I'm trapped in a glass cage of emotion.
Yeah. I wanted to free him.
So sorry. I hate the fact that now that I'm back that we got more serious. That's the sad part. And there's no laughter. All the fun stuff is over now. Hey, just a real quick reset. We are Gut Check Project. We are on the Spoonie Network. Spoonie.com, of course, hosts several shows. You mentioned earlier Trey's Chowdown. Chef Patrick, who works as our producer, also has a show on there. But did you know that Dr. Yepuri, have you ever met him? He is considering starting another health-based show on Spoonie Network.
Is that about his former career as a bikini model?
That's exactly what just happened.
You know, I think that's exactly where it came from. From my failed attempt at bikini modeling and lack of manscaping. So yeah, that's where that came from.
I can't imagine what the title's going to be, but as long as Manscaped works in there, it's going to be.
I think it'll be a hit.
It'll be a nice hit.
It'll be a hit. Absolutely.
Paying a couple of the bills for this next whole hour. Be sure to check out lovemytummy.com/Spoonie. That's lovemytummy.com/Spoonie. That's where you will find your offer just for listening to Spoonie and the Gut Check Project to save money on Atrantil. And while we're here, Dr. J, where can people go to learn a little bit more about Riduzone?
So the easiest place to go to is riduzone.com, riduzone.com. It'll give folks a good overview of what Riduzone is, the science behind it, of which there is quite a bit. And how it works and how we think people should use it and really get the best benefit from it.
Perfect. And Rachel Scheer, make no bones about it, she's got an incredible following. So Rachel, what is your favorite way for people to connect with you as well?
Well, they can connect with me through Instagram, which is pretty simple. It's at Rachel, Rachel, then my last name, Scheer, Scheer. And that's going to be where the majority of my social network is going to be found. Also, my website, which is, again, just my first and last name.com.
Nice. RachelScheer.com. RachelScheer.com. Well, let's
keep
not.
It simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. KISS. All right. So let's not lose our momentum on what we're talking about, because what I could hear before I had the microphone working again is that we're talking a lot about synergy, collaboration, and it always comes with the right person in mind, which is to benefit the patient. Before you joined us earlier, Jay, I can remember that you always know your colleagues that are patient-centric or patient advocates. And I think that that's a key reason on why you were chosen to be the CMO, why you've never turned away from research, and why your patients, I've seen firsthand, don't just want to be trusting their health decisions with you. They like coming to see you. So knowing that we're putting the patient first, where would you like to take what it is that we're doing as a collaborative to put something together like the DHAT box?
Okay, so we kind of got into it a little bit in the last hour, but the reality is we're doing something which is absolutely incredible, very innovative, and we're going to be the first large single specialty group to put together health in a box. We want to put health in your hands, and that's going to be our slogan here. So DHAT is arranging a program where we can put the holes where many Americans lack because of nutrition. We can help them out. Rachel and I were just talking about this. Rachel, like for instance, when you see somebody, what are some of the common supplements that you like to have your clients on?
Yeah, so I think there are 4 essential supplements that everyone should be on. The first one's going to be a high quality multivitamin. I'd like to say that we could get all of the nutritional needs from the food that we're eating, but just the way the American standard diet is set up, that's just not really reality. So getting on a high quality multivitamin to prevent any type of nutritional deficiencies. The second one would be a good probiotic. Again, going back to the gut, that's going to be the foundation for health. So we need to be promoting a good, healthy gut microbiome. The third one would be a vitamin D. So most of the population is deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin D we tend to get from the sun. So especially here in Texas, because it's so hot, we're not out in the sun very much. And just in general, I've done a lot of different micronutrients testing, and the majority of my clients come back with those deficiencies in vitamin D. And then the fourth one would be an omega-3 fish oil. So again, going back to the standard American diet, we get a lot more omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory. And so we need to counteract that by adding in more omega-3s, which are going to be anti-inflammatory. So the 4 that I think everyone ought to be on is going to be a good multivitamin, a probiotic, vitamin D, and an omega-3 fish oil.
So hearing that list, Dr. Brown or Dr. Yepuri, what are some of the pitfalls that the patients that come into both of your practices, what is it that someone comes in with? Rachel hit the nail on the head, and we'll get to it in a moment, but whenever she said high quality probiotic, there is tons of bacteria sources out there that some people may say is beneficial. You said it. What do you think when someone just walks in with some random probiotic and you know it's expensive?
Well, it's a great question, Eric. And the issue is, so Ken and I see this every day in the office, is someone will come in and it's a typical scene. They'll be sitting there, and then on the exam table, they'll put out the bottles of stuff that they're taking. And one by one, they'll go, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And most of the time, and Ken may have the same experience, I'll have to say, I don't know, because these things have not been vetted. We don't know, and I don't know enough about them to recommend one or another. And I will generally say that, in general, I think this is probably safe to use. I don't know of any downside, but I can't 100% recommend or give a stamp of approval to something because it's not something I vetted that I know enough about to be able to give it that enthusiastic or at least the thumbs up. And that's tough because, again, as Ken spoke to in the first half, we try to establish this rapport with our patients and establish trust and get that sense of, you can be a real resource for them. We can't be experts on everything, which again is why folks like Rachel are so integral and essential to this process. But at the end of the day, it's nice to be able to have a way to have a structured way to have a supplements and other things that we can recommend to our folks, and that's where I think the box comes in. So,
yeah, I think that there was that study that came out where it looked at DNA analysis, and it showed almost 79% of the what is in the bottle is not on the label. 79% of the products that are on big box shelves. So we know that there is a lot of possibly maybe not complete quality that's being sold out there because it's kind of unregulated. And then in your industry, when we look at weight loss products, sexual enhancement products, and I can't remember what the other one is, almost 40% of those categories had dangerous pharmaceuticals in them. So in your industry, and I've had some patients that have shown up with liver failure. And when you start looking, you're like, man, what's going on here? Start looking at their list and you're like, whoa, what is that? Ends up being a prohormone. And then the prohormone is metabolized in the liver and it's creating anyways. So it's not only you may be wasting your money, but there is a slight possibility that you could actually be harming your body. So that's why we came together as a group to say, look, we're going to try and vet these. We're going to try and find things that have certificate of analysis, third-party testing. Let's see what's there. There is some science with that. I'm trying to get our group, Dr. Harry Sarles, I do this almost every show. I call him out because I want to do functional research. I want DRI, which is Digestive Research Institute, our research division of DHAT, to look at some of these things. Really, I just think we can help people out. So when somebody holds this out, they could say, because there's no money in doing the research. It's not that people don't want it. It's just who's going to pay for it. That's the problem. So,
well, and it's a win-win for everyone, right? We can enthusiastically and confidently recommend supplements to our patients that we know have been vetted, that are tested, that don't have these contaminants and the contents in there that are obviously can be harmful. But then and be able to do that in a way that we can within the confines of that patient-physician relationship.
Absolutely. So I live in this space. I discovered this after we developed Altrontil. One of the things that we do have is something called NSF certified, which is certified for sports. Are you familiar with that, Rachel?
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain to everybody what this is?
With NSF?
Yeah.
Basically, it's going to be certified by the Sports Foundation.
Yeah. So basically what it does is so many Olympic athletes, college athletes, pro UFC fighters and things, they will have random things pop up on their drug test. We paid a lot of money to make sure that what is on our label, we paid a third-party company to prove that what we have in the capsules is the same thing that's on the label.
As no doubt. So NSF certification and certified for sport is specific in terms of the CBA that they have, both with all dietitians and nutritionists with MLB, NFL, most NCAA functions, et cetera. They have to have that mark on there if it's OTC and it's a supplement. And what it says is that company paid not just for their brand, but every single lot that's produced is scanned, is put through gas chromatography and spectroscopy, and they make certain there are no contaminants in there that can harm the athlete or make them show up positive for something that they shouldn't be taking. In addition to every claim that's on all the literature has to be vetted and proven for them to do so. So all your clinical trials have to do that to be a part of that. That same approach is what DHAT is doing for everything else that's in there, which I think is awesome, because you said it yourself, a high quality omega-3. Well, that sounds great, but how do I know who's making what? And what happens to be olive oil? You said that there were 70, whatever percentage it is, that showed up with trace pharmaceuticals in them.
So 40% showing up there. A recent article just came out where it showed they looked at a bunch of different melatonin. So we subscribe to several different third-party sites that look at this, and they had melatonin where it ranged from 10% of what was on the milligram dosage to like 400%. Now, some of this is not the fault of the company, because as we have found out that when we get raw products shipped, we test top, middle, and bottom, because unfortunately when people are ordering raw product from other countries, to save money, they will fill with filler and then put only the top portion of it with the actual product, and the company pays for that. So what happened in that one study where 79% of the companies, they were trying to do the right thing. They're assuming. And you literally have to do that, because if you're ordering raw products from other countries, sometimes these big vats come in and it's just not exactly the same quality.
I think the key here for the listeners is to make sure that when they're going to take a supplement, really drill down on has this been approved by a third party? By approve is a bit of it can be a tough word to use sometimes. A verification process to verify what's in there is what the claim is in there, that there's not other contaminants. So, for example, with Riduzone, we have something called a new dietary ingredient designation from the FDA. As many listeners may be aware, supplements are not FDA certified. There's no certification process. But what the FDA can do is say this is safe. We regard it as safe. So one of the things we're most proud about with Riduzone, when we brought it to market, we spent a lot of time and effort and resources to get that NDI designation from the FDA that says this is safe. The FDA says this is safe.
Is that what the FDA acknowledged stamp is?
That's correct. That's exactly what the acknowledgement is. So, and again,
Awesome.
It's a language issue. You want to be very careful, but that acknowledgement means the FDA has acknowledged this as a safe product.
And Riduzone is really one of the few products I know that even carries that seal of approval from the FDA, which is, I think, a huge endorsement.
Yeah, we were actually really looking into that. We're like, man, what is that? Because you start looking into it, and there's so much confusion with this. So let's talk about our colleagues that are, well, a lot of doctors don't really understand this industry either. And so when we start talking about this, so when a nutritionist starts talking about diet, starts talking about supplements, sometimes a lot of doctors stick their head in the sand and just say, well, I haven't seen the literature. I don't know what this is. Drug rep hasn't brought it in. Nobody's brought lunch to me. And that's what we're really trying to overcome.
Yes.
So what this box is going to represent is it's the DHAT Health box. It's not just trying to make sure that you can have a few of these key things, which I want to ask you one question. I want to ask Jay this also. When I went to medical school, you could not be vitamin D deficient if you live south of Nebraska. And now everyone's vitamin D deficient. What's going on with this?
Well, I think it's interesting, Ken. When Rachel was talking about vitamin D being one of the essential supplements she recommends to her clients, you remember when we started seeing blood work coming from referring doctors, primary care doctors sending us patients, and I'd see these vitamin D tests. I'm like, what is, we didn't train about vitamin D deficiency. This is not something that was in our math. And now it's endemic. I mean, it's an epidemic. And as Rachel touched on a few minutes ago, I think it was under-recognized and under-treated. And so I think now that awareness and that knowledge has taken over. But you're right. I mean, that's the example. I mean, there's these, and going back to your point earlier, the way we're trained, we don't have a framework to understand things that are outside the paradigm. And what I'll give Ken a lot of credit for is you are pioneering, saying, look, there's a mechanism and a way to do this in a way that's structured, recognized, clinically valid, safe, and that we can be our patients can trust us when we recommend this stuff. And that's new and that's different. We haven't had that. We didn't come through when we came through training. That wasn't there for things that we have in the box or things like Riduzone, things like that.
Absolutely. Same thing in the world of nutrition for you. I mean, there's lots of people out there who say that I'm a nutritionist, and then they'll get about knee deep. They get some followers or they get some clients, and that's kind of where it stops. But that's not how you've approached really anything like that.
No, and I think what I see oftentimes is, you can lose weight, but that doesn't make you a health expert, and that doesn't even make you healthy nonetheless. So nutrition goes back to more than just the way we look. It goes back to how we feel. It goes back to everything that we're putting into our body. And health is even more than just taking our vitamins or taking our supplements and working out and exercise. It's even mindset. I mean, it's the whole picture, and that's really what goes back to that functional medicine aspect. So it's looking at that whole lifestyle approach.
I tell my patients that people come in and they will talk about the different prescription drugs that are there, and they talk about adding, this lifespan years when we start giving people drugs, and this drug plus this drug plus this drug, we're improving the lifespan. I tell my patients, how's your health span? I want to make sure that you are healthy at the age that you want to be. We need to improve health span, not lifespan. And I think we do that through proper lifestyle, functional ways.
And I think everyone comes in just wanting that quick fix. They go to the doctor and they just want to be handed, a medication for their cholesterol and expect that to fix all of their issues. And sure, maybe that will lower their cholesterol, but that's probably not going to be their only issue. If they're out of shape and overweight, they're going to have a whole host of issues as well too. So, addressing one thing with medication, that's just kind of putting a Band-Aid over that issue, which really we want to get back to that root cause so we can really get to that optimal health.
Unfortunately, I've heard it best from Naveen Jain, the CEO of Viome. Yeah, we met him at a conference. We got
Viome.
Yeah, and so we've got some mutual friends. And he was giving a lecture, and he said, unfortunately, we have created an entity that preys on itself. It needs disease to keep going. We have hospitals that run. We've got pharmaceutical industries. We've got this. And it's almost a self-perpetuating issue where the healthcare industry needs disease to keep going, at least in the Western world.
Yeah, look at how reimbursement works and how that kind of dictates who gets the priority in the OR. I mean, it was 15 years ago, cardiac procedures in the cath lab were chock full, and people had third-party investments specifically in that specialty. And now that reimbursement's been trimmed down and it's fallen to other places, whether it happens to be you can get a hiatal hernia repair while you end up getting a gastric sleeve, and that's where the money is now. So that kind of ends up dictating the ideas in terms of who's going to be treated in bulk and in mass. And this approach is far different. What you said about Jay, what you said about Ken is spot on, but you're no stranger to that yourself. That's how you ended up being the CMO of Riduzone. There's a reason why an altruistic doc ended up being the CMO of a company like Riduzone. It's because you knew there was a better answer than just relying on pharmaceuticals. Riduzone it's made from a natural ingredient.
This is a great topic and could be a show or shows on itself about how American medicine we're really good at the heroic interventions, the stopping the heart attack, saving the heart, stopping the bleeding ulcer. We're really good at that stuff. What we're not good at, or what we're kind of middle of the road at least by a lot of the conventional metrics, is prevention, keeping us from getting to that point in the first place. So, whether it's a simple intervention, or I shouldn't say simple, whether it's a more fundamental intervention, when Rachel sits down with a client and says, let's start to get some of these things in order, from basic what you're putting in your body, fitness, etc., to something like Riduzone, which is helping curb your appetite in a safe, non-stimulant, something that we produce in our own bodies method, to prevent those downstream sequelae of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a much more rewarding. We train, Ken and I train where we're good at those heroic things. We can do those, but what we didn't train with, or what didn't come naturally and was a challenge to me, and kind of what got me excited, was that ability to say, let's take that expertise and go from a different side now, see if we can help folks in a different way.
I just thought of something. Hear me out. Coming up next half hour, we got Dr. Yepuri hosting the Mundane Intervention. No more heroic interventions. Follow Dr. Yepuri while he explains mundane ways to improve your health.
Check your Manscaped at the door.
With no social media involved. Absolutely.
No, I like that. What did you feel like that it was like to step outside the comfort zone of the norm too? Because that's no easy task.
Well, it's a challenge, right? And again, you have the naysayers in conventional, what we call allopathic Western medicine, that say there's not a research study that looks at this. There's no literature based on this. There's not multiple randomized controlled trials, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trials that say this is better, X is better than Y. But that's the challenge, right? I mean, it's to reconcile what you want to do that's right for the patient, client, whomever, with science and science that may not be as well vetted or understood yet, but that we want to get there.
I want to comment on that really quick, because we've had two guests on that basically are hindered by the fact that the science is not in what they call more reputable journals. So James Carroll, that has the biphotomodulation, shocked while he was on the show, I found tons on PubMed. And I asked, how is this not more used? He's like, because people quote that the journals aren't really there. Now, Dr. Wade McKenna, same thing on stem cells. What in the world? Now, we did this with Altrontil. We have a randomized placebo-controlled trial. We've got one where it's failure. They're in what we would call what you and I would call lesser tier journals. But the reality is, I've talked to a lot of functional gastroenterologists who've done some incredible work. In Louisville, Kentucky, one of my favorite people.
Gerald Dryden.
Gerald Dryden.
Former faculty of mine when I was a medical student.
Love that guy. Absolutely
fan.
love that guy.
Always.
And he actually studied ECGC, green tea extract in ulcerative colitis, had really good results, and he got relegated. And he's a PhD and a full bird colonel, and like the guy's academic, and he got relegated to a poster presentation and couldn't even get it published. And we had a long talk about it where he's like, there is a certain bias towards big pharma getting published there. So keep in mind that just because there's not literature that is being handed to you by a drug rep does not mean that there's not literature out there. When we have our graduate student finding literature, oh, by the way, we found tens of thousands of articles to dispute different arguments that we've had, like yesterday's argument.
Right.
So it's very interesting because doctors will say that. They'll go, oh, I need more literature. So with Altrontil, I would sit there and look at people and go, what do you need? How many? What's your number? No, it's the industry that we have created, unfortunately. I want to change that.
Well, the industry, you hit the nail on the head. It's the industry. So who's the editor of the premier journal? I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. He satisfies, checks certain boxes off because, and it's things that are going to be recognized and things that are going to be what his cohort thinks is acceptable. That doesn't necessarily mean that something from a journal that's not as well recognized means it's less valid. It's just that because it didn't check those boxes off, then our colleagues are going to say, well, I can't do that. I can't recommend that.
I think it'll be so cool to change the healthcare landscape in an environment. I want to see DFW change so that we help people sleep, we help people with their diet, we help them with their supplements. And that's data that we can use. Oh, look, the DFW Metroplex started out with the DHAT Health Box to give them information, to give them encouragement, to give them exercise advice. They're going to get that delivered to their house.
Hey, I just want to add, we only have about 30 seconds until we have our last break, but we can talk in the next half hour a little bit about, even though it's in our backyard, this is the launch zone at DFW, but if you happen to be watching anywhere else, anybody in the U.S. can go to dhatbox.com to get all the information to move forward. In the next half hour, we're going to revisit Rachel's list on things that would be in this box if you were to be a recipient of it, what you can do to grow your box, to develop your value within that box, save money, and everything else.
I want to talk about the science of Riduzone also.
Yeah, we're going to do all that stuff. We're not going to be limited, except by time. All right, see you in a bit.
Do you use the expensive blue or yellow pills to charge your sex life? Are you thinking about it? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 a pill for the other pills, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pills deliver the exact same results for less than $3. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. And right now, radio callers will get 44 blue or yellow pills for $120 with free discreet shipping. You can save more than $700 off pharmacy prices. Charge your sex life now and save a ton of money. Call now and get your 44 pills and save over $700 and qualify for free shipping. Stop overpaying and call right now.
800-218-6473. 800-218-6473. 800-218-6473. That's 800-218-6473.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can help you have more energy, and polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoonie.
Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
All right, welcome back. It is going to be the last half hour of today's episode 9, Gut Check Project. I mean, every time we come back, I'm like, what the hell happened before? How did this go so fast?
I know. And then you know what I'm also thinking is that this is almost every single show at this point. I come in late. And our two guests came in late because it was potty break. We got to set up some porta potties or something.
Yeah, does it make sense?
Like right outside the door.
All we have
better than diapers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so.
Next week we're going to take a camera outside, and you'll see that just beyond this door, it's just a row of trees. That's all it is, and everybody has to go out there and sandpaper for a wipe. Anyway.
Oh, this is awesome! I just got messaged. I want to know more about Riduzone. That's cool.
There you go.
That's exactly where we were headed.
That is a way to tee something up. All right, Dr. J. What about it?
It's a great segue. So Riduzone, Riduzone, is its sole ingredient is something called, and I'll say it once and then I'll abbreviate it, oleoyl ethanolamide.
Now,
go ahead, Ken.
Sorry about that. Where were you earlier when I was trying to say it? You should have, There
will be a test at the end. Say it 10 times really fast with tongue teaser. OEA is what the conventional abbreviation is, oleoyl ethanolamide. So OEA is actually a endocannabinoid, as I'm sure you've discussed or been or discussed on the show before, and Ken in other forums. That's actually made in the human small intestine, in the human gut, and its role is to actually bind to a receptor in the lining of the gut that has some downstream effects biochemically. the two basic ones are, one, to send a signal to the satiety center of the brain to say, I'm full. And the other is a whole host of downstream biochemical processes that have to do with lipolysis or breakdown of fat, use of fat as a substrate for energy, and then also have effects on regulation of blood sugar, so insulin and glucagon levels that regulate blood sugar. The receptor, or this idea of a lock and key, where the receptor is the lock and OEA is the key, this is kind of a basic foundation for how things in our body work, right? So in this scenario, the receptor for OEA is something called PPAR alpha, which, as Ken knows, is a target for, and as Eric knows, is a target for a lot of pharmaceutical agents out there, for particularly in management of diabetes. What's interesting is those pharmaceutical agents don't have the effects that Riduzone has in terms of making you feel full, and also the beneficial effects on fat increasing metabolism, and increasing fat breakdown, and favorable cholesterol profiles. So how the appetite suppressing property works is via the vagus nerve, a signal directly to the satiety center in the brain that says, I feel full. And it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, and it doesn't stimulate the heart. So the most important thing here with a lot of those prescription weight loss agents, and Rachel, I'm sure, is familiar with this, is all those horrible stories we've heard about, and Ken and I have seen these folks where they might have a fatal heart rhythm abnormality from some of the prescription agents, or this stuff crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it interacts with other medications that these folks may be on. We don't have any of those problems with Riduzone. It's not an issue with it. That's kind of the 30,000-foot view.
Let me ask you a question about the satiety thing. Does it affect leptin or ghrelin at all? And those ghrelin being the one that makes you hungry, leptin making you feel full.
It does. Those mechanisms are not as well elucidated or understood. There are over 250 peer-reviewed journal articles. We talk about peer-reviewed journals, and many in top-tier journals looking at Riduzone OEA's safety and efficacy across a spectrum of animal and some human models as well. So, but yeah, those mechanisms are involved, but not as well fleshed out yet.
So I'm going to tee you up for something. The Mediterranean diet seems to do a lot of these things. Anything in the Mediterranean diet that could be tied to Riduzone? That is a great point. So where OEA, so what we have is a way to extract OEA from olive oil. So oleoethanolamide, or OEA, is a fatty acid metabolite. So it's a derivative of fatty acids, of a fatty acid. And it's actually found in olive oil. The problem is, to get the amount of OEA in one bottle of Riduzone, you'd have to drink like 12 liters of olive oil, which I'm not sure that goes over very well. I'm not sure Rachel would necessarily recommend that to her clients.
You'd be really sick.
Yeah, why don't we just ask Rachel if that's good or bad?
To guzzle, I'm going to go on a limb here and just say that probably not particularly appetizing.
Just like mommies to
a lot of people.
Very full.
Exactly. So we have a method to extract OEA from olive oil. This method was actually devised at University of California, Irvine, a little over, probably close to 15 years ago. And so we have that technology. And it brought it to market.
So I know that you're the chief medical officer, but you're also involved in the business with it. Now I'm involved with the business of this, and I'm essentially the chief medical officer. Also, we got people that run the company, and they do a great job of that. But so it was, the technology to get it was 15 years. Do you know the history of the company to get where they're at right now?
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit and talk about the technology. So the original method, again, was developed at UC Irvine, and without getting too deep in the weeds about it, one of the big players in the pharmaceutical space about 15 years ago acquired the technology. So how a lot of this works is universities and research institutes that think they have a technology that could be of commercial viability or a broader use, they'll put those out there, and investors will kind of check these out and decide if who people, if they may be interested in maybe a commercial application for this, they'll take it down the road. A big pharma company was going on a tear acquiring technologies in the cholesterol weight loss space about 15 years ago. They bought it and shelved it as basically to block other people from getting it.
They didn't want competition.
Yeah, they didn't want the competition. And so when that company got acquired, the technology reverted back to the university, and so it was available for someone else to pick up. And that's basically how we found it.
Okay. Well, that sounds very similar in terms of what's happened with a lot of natural solutions is that someone will end up buying the technology and they want to sit on it because it inevitably becomes competition for their long projected project that they think is going to give them more margin, when in truth, generally nature is going to almost always be the solution that's going to be better than pharmaceuticals. You listed off tons of side effects from pharmaceuticals before. So essentially, we're just avoiding all of that. Rachel's been a gigantic proponent for Atrantil for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
You made the comparison about how many ever gallons of olive oil that you would have to have, using some of the science that we had from the polyphenol experts and the tannin experts with Atrantil. One of the best examples we had for athletes was you would typically have to consume 5 bowls of whole cherries to get 1 day's supply of polyphenols that you find in Atrantil. Very, very similar, because if you were to do that, cherries are great for you. Blueberries, that many blueberries would be great for you, but that's just way too much fructose probably for 1 day.
Yeah, and I actually started taking Atrantil initially because for my gut health
Sure.
overall and for bloating. But what I found was it actually did help me a lot with workout, especially with post-workout recovery as well too. So I know that was one of the things that polyphenols actually has a great impact on, is delaying that DOM, so that delayed onset muscle soreness, so you can recover faster, you can get back in the gym faster, and you can grow muscle, lose fat at a much faster rate.
Well, that being said,
So,
go ahead.
just super quick, I apologize. I had to step out. I got a few messages where a few people said that we went off the air. That means you were listening long enough that you need to refresh your browser, which is good news. That means that they've been paying attention the whole time. So we're still on the air. Just refresh your browser if you've been with us since the beginning. So I just want to say that's why I had to step out of the room. I'm like, uh-oh, are we? But we're still on everywhere.
So your host and IT director, Dr. Kenneth Brown. Anyway.
A man of many hats.
Yeah, so many hats. So many hats. Well, Rachel, if you don't mind, you had a list, and just to refresh the audience, and before I forget, dhatbox.com, dhatbox.com. If you just want to sign up to simply learn more, you can go there and you will be notified of all the information as it's made available, I believe, early next week. That being said, Rachel, you listed off 4 base supplements. Right? And so, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. You said it was a reputable probiotic?
Yeah, a probiotic, a good quality multivitamin, a vitamin D, and omega-3 fish oil.
So one of the things that the president of DHAT, Jim Hackert, was very excited about whenever he decided to hop on board and get all of the physicians aligned was that this is an opportunity to make certain that we're putting the right supplements in front of people. So let's talk a little bit about how this works. So if somebody were to sign up for the DHAT box, the way I understand it is they're going to get 2 upscale high core products, which would be Atrantil and, as you mentioned, a reputable probiotic. And we met Kiran Krishnan, the CEO and researcher for Megaspore, which actually delivers bacteria to where it belongs.
So one of the things that, so the CEO of Megaspore is that they have the probiotic in a spore form, which is a higher likelihood of getting to the colon where it can then be in the right environment and flourish. And so the science behind that is kind of cool. It's like a little next level of probiotic kind of thing. So
the cool thing is normally people get recommended Megaspore, though, directly from a physician. So they partnered with DHAT's Health Box simply because of Dr. J, you, Ken, you, and your colleagues putting in that input that's what belongs in a box like this. And so they've reduced that cost. It's not completely inexpensive. It's affordable, but it's not inexpensive. But they want people to be able to get healthy. They want people to be able to maintain their health. So they've trimmed their cost. The same thing with Atrantil. The same thing with the other supplements that Rachel listed. But the really, really important thing is that whether something's in the core box or not, it doesn't stop there. So listeners, you've all heard Dr. J reference Riduzone. Riduzone is soon going to be a part of the marketplace. And this is a whole nother world simply to those who join this box. You're going to have access to things that are good for your brain health, that'll help you sleep. We're talking with Brain FM about adding their products simply to this box.
What we want to offer is putting your health in your hands, which is that right there on the front of that. So this is going to continue to grow. we've partnered with Stephen Azell of MemberBox, and what you're going to be able to do is go to an online store. Now, everybody that's hearing this, you're getting basically the pre-launch information about this. So go over there. It's at
DHATbox.com.
DHATbox.com. In addition to that, we're going to make sure that you become healthier, but we get people like Rachel contributing to it, giving exercise advice. We've got people like Dr. Yepuri that's going to review articles and write things, and we're going to offer. We have actually teamed up with multiple authors. You may get a book free in the box that comes in there. So we're really excited. The bottom line is my ultimate goal, just like we were talking about, is to change the landscape of health in this area. I'm with two phenomenal professionals that's your ultimate goal anyways. This is a way to get it out a little bit bigger, a little further. Since we're the first doing this, we can go beyond DFW. We want everyone sharing this. So if you're listening to this, if you're sharing it or you're going to watch it later, just send it to your mom, send it to your sister, whoever it is. Say, hey, I think this is something that you would enjoy.
Yeah, without question. And as Dr. J, you said earlier, it's a win-win-win for everyone. You win because you're getting the guidance of people that you trust, your physicians already at home. So we're immediately already targeting the patients that come in and giving them this opportunity and letting them know if this works for you, pass it on to your family members. We're getting a huge benefit because we have a nutritionist weighing in on the way that supplements are benefiting people outside and beyond the clinic and what people are turning to. And then they actually get to save money and they get enough that they need every single month. So you save money, you get guidance, you know that everything in the box is vetted. You're then shown endorsed products that you may or may not wish to add to your box each month. All in all, it takes a lot of the guesswork and it saves money out of your pocketbook.
Yeah, and I just got texted again by Magnus von Magnuson, and he says that my box won't fit. That's a problem that we didn't think through very well. But we'll go ahead and handle that. So if you're a strong man, we can get you your own member box there.
He has a lot of input from his days on ESPN. It's really weird that he texts you so often. Well, Rachel, tell me a little bit more about what it's like to collaborate with a gastroenterology group and helping them, and then probably what changing that landscape is going to do for you as you try to reach other people.
Yeah, so my philosophy with my nutrition practice is also similar to Dr. Kenneth Brown's, is that health begins with the gut. So looking at that gut first, making sure we have optimal digestion, because everything goes back to that gut, our energy levels, the way we absorb nutrients, carbs, fats, and protein, or micronutrients. It's going to affect every bodily process. So working with a gastroenterologist, that's going to be awesome for a lot of my clients, because nutrition is the foundation, fitness is going to play a big part, and then going back to that gut. So having the expertise of Dr. Kenneth Brown from that gastroenterologist standpoint really creates that bigger picture.
So the beauty is it's not just Dr. Kenneth Brown. It's
everybody.
90 of some of the best doctors in the country.
Well, and you know that hits the nail on the head. I mean, this is what's in the box is curated and supported by a company, a practice of 90 board certified gastroenterologists. And I don't know where you could go to get that kind of check box. I can trust what's in there.
I don't know where you're going to get 90 doctors to agree on something
at all, or 2 doctors to agree on something. So there's that.
Let's talk about some of our doctors for a second here, because I think whenever I travel, when I talk to people, Eric and I are part of several entrepreneur groups, and it is fascinating when I go and talk to people and they're like, you have 90 doctors. I'm like, yeah, we've got in our own group, we've got pancreas specialists, Paul Tarnasky. Well, in my pod, it's going to be Ackerman and Goldschmidt, and they do incredible things. They do stuff that you're like, what are you guys doing? This is nuts. I mean, you're literally doing surgery from the inside. You do endoscopic ultrasound yourself, which is a very advanced technique. And did you get extra training in that, or how did that?
Yeah, unfortunately, to be able to learn these advanced techniques, and we're blessed in DHAT to have several specialists train in these kind of next level techniques and procedures. I say, unfortunately, it does take an extra year to 2, depending on when you came out of training, beyond our usual training paradigm. to get to learn those techniques. And it's not just learning how to do the procedure, it's also selecting the patient, right? Who needs them, who doesn't need them. Because I think that's as important as anything else, making sure you're doing the right thing for the patient in the right way and offering them something as opposed to not. And so we've been very fortunate with DHAT to have this expertise, across the Metroplex and being able to offer that in different areas, whether it's where I am here in the mid cities and Northeast Tarrant to out in Plano and northern suburbs, or in the heart of Dallas, or out further west of Fort Worth.
The reason why I wanted to bring that up is because when you get your box, we have a Connect with DHAT right here. One of the things I really want to do is it doesn't have to be DHAT. It doesn't have to be DFW. It can be anywhere that we have these experts. So if we start getting a series of social media questions, we can actually put something together, put it in the box, say these are the most common questions we're getting. Who is the right person to undergo this? For instance, Rachel, we were talking on the other show over there, something that really shocked me. Tell me about the macros, meaning how do you divide up your calories to stay so fit?
Well, macronutrients are essentially your carbs, fats, and protein. So basically, they're going to be dependent and different for each person. There are fundamentals when it comes to nutrition that applies to everyone. I mean, we all need to be eating whole foods. We all need to be, getting a lot of different nutritional intakes. But the actual macronutrients is dependent on each person. So, for example, you wouldn't put someone who is 55 years old trying to lose 40 pounds of fat on a high carbohydrate diet versus someone who's maybe an Olympic athlete who's 25 years old and they're trying to maybe build muscle. They would need a very different macronutrient intake where they would require a much higher carbohydrate intake. So macronutrients in itself, so how much carbs, fats, and protein you need, overall calorie intake, is going to very much depend on an individual basis. But there are the fundamentals that do apply all across the board, which it goes back to the sources of our food that we're eating and basically getting back to those whole food sources.
How would you divide up the macros if, let's say, one of your clients was a former bikini model, now turned gastroenterologist that does endoscopic ultrasound?
So what I like to do in my
very common demographic, I think, that comes across in Rachel's practice.
Huge audience.
Use that all the time.
Former bikini model, gone gastroenterologist. Well, what I like to do in my practice is
you rally back from that is incredible.
Yeah, she already has an algorithm ready to go.
Yeah, I actually do have an algorithm. So I base protein intake off of the skeletal muscle mass of that person. So your protein intake is going to be different for each person. How much protein I need is going to be different for how much protein you need. It's going to be based on the individual and how much protein they need to support their skeletal muscle mass. So protein is very satiating too, and it helps us maintain our skeletal muscle mass and also helps us build it. So like people who are working out in the gym. And then I base their carbohydrate intake basically off of their activity level. So for example, going back to that Olympic athlete, they're going to need a much higher carbohydrate intake than, let's say, someone who's going to be maybe working a desk job, more sedentary. So kind of basing that carbohydrate intake based off of the activity levels. And then the remainder coming from fat sources. And it's true, not all fats or calories are created equal. So getting those healthy fat sources coming from avocados, wild-caught fish, nuts and seeds, olive oils. So those are going to be the very healthy fats that are going to be beneficial and help with hormone production. They're going to help us, again, feel full and satisfied.
We need to introduce you to our friend, Gabrielle Lyons.
Oh, yeah.
She is a physician in New York and actually Manhattan. And her whole process, I think she's a former fitness competitor also.
I think that is correct.
She it focuses on muscle-centric medicine, where she believes that if we can maintain muscle mass, you'll improve insulin sensitivity, you'll decrease your fat. And so it's all about trying to maintain that as we age and trying to do that. Because that's one of the things that happens is that we tend to lose muscle as we age, and then all the other issues start happening. So
the approach in her practice is based around anti-aging and using natural means to accomplish that, I believe, if I'm not speaking in a turn.
Well, she's usually, she must be traveling to the meeting we're going to, because she usually messages us and asks and gets involved, because we're going to end up having her on the show because she's super smart and somebody that's kind of very similar path like you. Okay. Very similar. Yeah, had kind of some gut issues and stuff and overcame them and became a fitness competitor. And so, yeah, this is it's super exciting. The box, dhatbox.com. The Love My Tummy /Spoonie.
LoveMyTummy.com/Spoonie.
Put in the code. Get a ginormous box of Atrantil at a discount.
But you have to pay for the shipping.
So one of the things I want to do here is we got to come up with a name for Jay's show.
Okay. So what would it be?
I want to encourage everyone to throw out
Do
some
we
names.
include manscaping in that name?
You know what?
you know?
I think it's considering your pedigree and where you come from, it may diminish your brand just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there, at least to start the conversation.
But you are a Louisville Cardinal basketball fan, correct?
Very much so.
What was the gentleman's name who had the broken bone in the
Kevin Ware.
Kevin Ware,
Win
yeah.
it for Ware, absolutely, in our last national championship, which is taken away from us by the NCAA because of some scandal, but that's okay.
Okay, but now looking at the FBI investigation now, name a college team that's probably not at least involved in something to get to that point, because now you've got Kansas, you got North Carolina, and what they're doing is they're choosing
The
teams.
scapegoat, yeah. They've picked the ones they think that they can make the best example of, and the ones that they want to protect, they're going to protect them.
Yeah, that's the lifeblood of it. That's who they want to protect, and if somebody else comes skating through, they don't really like that, or they're going to make the example out of them if they can get any dirt on them.
What are they doing to them? I'm actually unfamiliar with this.
Oh, well, and Jake probably even pontificate just as much as I can on this whole thing. I mean, you got Kansas and I believe even Kentucky.
Well, very
North Carolina.
clearly, you and Eric need to have a basketball show is what it comes down to.
Just do a sports talk, sports talk radio tied in with nutritional,
There you
with
go.
food and nutrition. I think we can make
All
that
right,
work.
I'm sorry.
No,
just
it's
'cause I
fine.
wasn't following the story.
Sports outfits were basically caught on phone and recorded that they were basically paying players under the table for them to attend certain universities. They would be committed somewhere else, and they would be influenced by basically the AAU circuit or something else like that to get endorsements, simply so they would choose a different school. And then in a third party, and sometimes even a fourth party way, the school would benefit, or another coach would be paid for it, so that it looked like it wasn't happening. But too many people have loose lips sink ships. The funny thing that I like about that, though, is it's really no different than what we were talking about, perception of understanding reputable sources, quote unquote sources, for journalistic integrity and clinical studies, who you want to believe and who you don't. And it's either the established blue blood or where the money is. And you can take that same parallel to the FDA, and the blue blood is the pharmaceutical industry. And the offshoot winning national championship titles like Louisville, or almost getting there like Texas Tech, that's not necessarily who they want to win. So if they could find something wrong, that's who they're going to sweep the legs on. It's no different when you're a natural solution for serious problems. It's really no different.
Yeah, picking your scapegoat to get your message across without damaging those who you feel like kind of perpetuate the industry, the status quo, the norm. That's across the board, whether it's college basketball or the pharmaceutical, healthcare, disease management industry, as we've touched on throughout the show. So
Interesting. Well, I learned something today. This is great. I need to start paying more attention to the whole NCAA basketball scene.
It directly affects your practice, Ken.
Hey, don't ask me any questions on that.
So anybody that's listening, we gotta convince Dr. Jay Yepuri to have his own show, and we got to come up with a title. Let's start with the title and work our way backwards. So, any running titles in your brain?
Not even to start with. To be honest with you, while I've been bouncing this around for a little bit, I being called to task on the name has not exactly. And now I'm caught a little bit. I'm usually not at a shortage for words, and now I'm at a shortage for words. So
I do want to say that I don't really think that the mundane intervention's a good name.
No,
of the title.
I think the word mundane in anything that you're trying to get someone excited about probably kind of
Healthy all day with the GI Dr. J.
There you go.
Healthy all day with
There you
GI
go.
Dr. J.
There you go.
So with
The little
Rachel,
manscape.
the thing that I want to see, what was
So
So with a little manscape.
Only a little.
Don't want to overdo
Everybody
it.
left that there. Everybody left that alone.
Just leave it on the table. and move away from it. Yeah.
So with Rachel, you've got this huge influence over people. We need to get something that you have in this box. So is it going to be a clothing line? Is it going to be a cookbook? Should you have your own line of supplements? Or we can do like the revamp. We know Babak to the P90X and Beachbodies.
We do.
We can get you a whole series of DVD workout videos.
Oh.
Yeah.
It could all go in that box.
It could all be in this box.
That's right.
All right.
It could all be there. DHATbox.com if you'd like to be sure that you are one of the first to get the information on the box. Once again, we're down to a little over a minute. The 2 hours raced by. Episode 9 is almost completed.
This was great. There's so much more to cover, and I think both of you guys could have your own show completely and cover a lot of issues. But the Healthy All Day with the GI Doc J, I'm liking it.
I like there's the cadence, the rhyme. You hit a lot of those syllables. Yeah. It's good. I like it. I like it. It's very catchy. Putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Yeah.
We got to get that bikini picture in the box.
The bikini for my bikini modeling days, it would definitely be a bonus when you open the box. You can.
I love it.
I appreciate everyone listening and watching today. Be sure and subscribe and like at Gut Check Project on iTunes, Gut Check Project channel on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and share. And of course, next week I believe we're going to have even another contest that we'll unveil to everybody else. And Ken doesn't even know about it because he's looking at me out of the corner of his eye. But regardless, we'll do that. Check out dhatbox.com to be first in line to learn about the box and its benefits for you and your family. And don't forget riduzone.com, riduzone.com, here with Dr. J. And of course, Rachel Scheer, RACHELSCHEER.com for Rachel Scheer Nutrition. Ken, parting words?
Awesome. You guys, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. We love spreading the news. We have the very similar message, which ultimately is everyone needs to be healthier. Let's put health in your hands. That's our goal.
Rachel?
Yes, sir.
Right on. Dr. J, anything else?
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for having us.
Great way to spend the morning.
Awesome. Well, it's the very beginning of May 2019. Get yourself in shape. We'll see y'all next time. Gut Check Project.
No, we're